The second day, we deal with communicating with greater impact. This is where the high impact part comes in. How to have impact. How to generate more than the average presenter in terms of capacity with your audience. How to motivate others. You might want them to do something. Well, why would they bother? Do you have a suggestion? Why does anybody care? How to get them to follow your suggestion. And this is a really critical piece. How to respond to pressure situations. If you're in a meeting and the big boss suddenly, boom, hits you with a really tough question, or you're in a room and someone says, well, what do you think? And suddenly everyone's looking at you. Start sweating, getting a bit worried. Or it might be a meeting with a hostile audience. It could be a meeting with a labour union representatives, and they're very concerned about something in the company, and they might ask something very tough, and you have to respond representing the company. It could be a rival division in the company competing with you for resources. It could be a personal rival in your company trying to make you look bad so they'll make themselves look good. Anytime this can come up. When we're giving a presentation, we're in control. But as soon as we get to Q&A, we lose control. So how do we deal with that Q&A particularly, or with very difficult questions? Very handy business. And then, how to get people to embrace change, not to force them to change, but actually they want to go with the change, with the new direction of the company, new culture, whatever it might be. So that's day 2. And so with the impact, we really look for trying to help you to stretch your capacity through using gestures. Now, you'll see a lot of Japanese people I notice are either using a lot of gestures or no gestures. There doesn't seem to be a good balance. And sometimes you'll see people, they're very protective. This is basically sending a body language message that says, I'm scared of my audience. Please, you stay over there. I'm going to protect myself here. Or they put their hands behind their back, which is not a great sign, because we've learned over centuries to trust people when we can see their hands and to not trust people when we can't see their hands. Without even thinking it, subconsciously we feel that. So always want to have your hands where they can be seen. So things like using our voice. Again, English and most Western languages have quite a bit of variation up and down in tone. When I came here the first time in 1979, started studying Japanese. I was at George University, I'm studying Japanese, and I'm utachi wa eki ni ikimasu. I'm all over the place like this, right? And the sensei is going flat, flat, flat. So Japanese is a monotone. It's a monotone, it's a flat language, which is very tough because a monotone puts people to sleep. So how do we deal with having variation in even a monotone language like Japanese to bring it live? And that's what we teach. Even if you have a monotone language, we have a couple of force points to really give some variation so people don't fall asleep. And use of gestures, etc. Using your face. Just using your face. Again, I find Japan interesting. Japanese people tend to be very serious. And when they become very serious, their faces become rather hard. Maybe Japanese people can tell this, but sometimes for me, when I see Japanese people with a very serious face, sometimes I can't tell. Is that a serious face or are they angry? To me it looks angry. Maybe to you it doesn't look angry, but to me as a foreigner I think, oh man, they look angry. So particularly if you're dealing with foreigners, if you're working in international business environment, be careful about that serious Japanese face. It may be interpreted as anger or being unhappy or being upset. So we deal a lot with how to get impact out of the facial expressions to back up the message. Simple things like surprise. Instead of going, well, I was very surprised. Face doesn't show anything. Oh, I was really surprised. You show surprise in your face. Things like that communicate the message really more strongly. And we try and help you to get out of your comfort zone a bit here. Because we tend to restrict ourselves to where we feel safe. But if we want to grow, we must step up. You know, if you keep doing the same things you're doing today, you do them in the same way, you're going to get the same result. So if you keep presenting and trying to persuade people as you are now, you're going to get the same outcomes. If you want to have more persuasion, a bigger outcome, a better outcome, then there needs to be a change. But we're all very resistant to change. But in this 2 days, we take the opportunity to really help you to grow and have a lot more flexibility about the potential things you can do, particularly in presentation skills. So this is, we help you to overcome any comfort zone barriers that are stopping you from really being the best that you could be. And that particular session is the first session on day 2. Fantastic session. This is the most fun you're going to have in a long time. Trust me, this is fun. Next one is how to motivate others to action. So, we're teaching how to present information in a way which people are very easily able to accept it, in a very logical structure of giving them pluses and minuses and making a recommendation in a way that sounds very fair and you've considered all possibilities as opposed to just a directive. And very clear, and very convincing the way we actually present this. So this works extremely well in getting others to do what we think is the best thing to do. And this one too, we need to get people emotionally involved around change, not just with the mind, we've also got to get the heart going. So we need a structure here where the listeners will want to emotionally join with your suggestion and get behind it. And then, of course, you need evidence, you need objectivity with that as well. So, this one, as again, this is another fun session. This is a tough one. This is a tough one because you're really dealing with high pressure situation. The big difference is, when you finish this session, you come out really feeling, I'm ready for anything now. It could be a media interview. It could be the most aggressive journalist. It could be the most hostile audience. You are good to go. After you've done this particular class, you will be very, very confident to be able to handle that situation. So, we teach you how to stay calm when there's lots of pressure. How to give very clear, positive messages. How to communicate confidence. And then handling the stress, how to handle the stress. So that, I think, amongst the many things we teach in these 2 days, is a really big takeaway. Because particularly if you're a presenter, as I say, when you get to Q&A, unless you know what you're doing, you've lost control now. Because the audience can hit you with any question. You can't control that. They can take the whole conversation in a completely negative route. So we teach how to avoid that.